Well, Ethan back tonight for an album review, and I'm going to be reviewing Free For All from the Ted Nugent Band. This is Ted Nugent's solo project. This is his second album. The first one, self-titled, Ted Nugent in 1975. This was released in October of 1976. You got Ted on the front playing the Gibson. Really cool vinyl here. Got this for $4. Yeah, this is their second album, 1976. He was in a band called the Amboy Dukes in the late 60s and early 70s. Broke that band up, took some of the remaining members and formed his solo band, 75, self-titled, good album. But I think this one, of all his 70s classic albums, I think this one is my favorite. This is, to me, an underrated gem of an album from Ted Nugent's discography. Just a unsung, great classic hard rock, borderline heavy metal album of the 70s. Yeah, here you had obviously Ted Nugent on guitar. You had Derek St. Holmes on rhythm guitar and some lead and backing vocals. He sang all lead vocals on the first album. But on this album, interestingly enough, they brought in Meatloaf, pre-Bat Out of Hell, to do a lot of lead vocals. So he sang like 70% of the album. You got Cliff Davies on drums. Great drummer, by the way. He's also from the first album. And Rob Grange on bass. Really great bassist as well. This album, to me, is the... And you got the gatefold inside. You get a lot of Ted, the Motor City Madman himself. And this album was recorded right here in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Sound Pit in '76. So, to me, this album is very much their underrated. Great album. I think this album is better than the first one. The first one's probably the most iconic. The next one, Cat Scratch Fever, is really good, but as an album, I think it's not quite as strong as this one. And I say not quite, and I prefer this one much more. Except for a few songs on Cat Scratch Fever that are good. The rest of the album is kind of forgettable, kind of overrated. That song is good. Not a big fan of Ted's vocals, but his guitar playing is fantastic. And so, that being said, this is my favorite album, Ted, Free For All. Let's go ahead and get into the track listing. You have the title track first, track 1, Free For All, sung by Ted. A nice, fun, up-tempo song. The only song on the album sung by Ted Nugent. Never cared for his vocals that much. He's not the best singer. To me, that band worked best when he was playing and someone else was singing, like Derek St. Holmes, like Meatloaf, like Charlie Hune on the next couple albums. Free For All, fun song. The next song, Dog Eat Dog, fantastic rock song. I mean, you have just the chugging riff, the galloping riff that kind of leads off that song. You've got a great riff from Ted in that. You've got great soloing. That's just a mean, nasty, almost proto thrash metal song. And the next song, and here we have Meatloaf singing a 7-minute long track called Writing on the Wall. This is a fantastic song. A song that this band didn't make a lot of songs like this. This is a very dark, kind of eerie song. Very kind of somber and heavy. It's got a plodding riff. In some ways, it reminds me of Stranglehold from the previous album. But I preferred this song, Writing on the Wall, over Stranglehold. It just has great lyrics. It's a little darker and deeper than some of the later, goofy Ted Nugent songs that we would get. It just has a great chorus, a fantastic vocal performance from Meatloaf on here, a young Meatloaf, in his late 20s before his breakthrough solo career. And he passed away about 6 months ago, actually. So Yeah, Riding on the Wall might be my favorite song on the album. I mean, the song has fantastic guitar work from Ted in it. It probably has 6 solos in it. No joke, 6 guitar solos from Ted throughout the song. Go listen to that song. It is fantastic. Riding on the Wall. The next song is Turn It Up, sung by Derek St. Holmes. Really kind of a fast, chuggy song, a fun kind of party rocker. But again, great guitar work throughout. And that's side one. And just 4 fabulous songs to kick off this album. Side 2, you have great song called Street Rats. Just a raunchy, heavy, snarling rocker. About like the streets of Detroit, where the band's from. Ted was from Detroit. Kind of the mean streets of Detroit, sort of the bad side of town or whatever that the hardened rockers are from. A fantastic song, Street Rats. I would say one of the better songs on the album. A fantastic riff as well. Great soloing throughout. It's got breakdowns galore in it. And the next song is a really good power ballad. And again, not a lot of songs. This band did not do a lot of songs like that. This is kind of the only song like that from their 70s output. Very kind of Meatloaf forward. Great, just a fantastic vocal performance from Meatloaf on that song. It's a very somber, mellow, melancholy power ballad with some absolutely killer guitar leads and solos from Ted Nugent on there together. Fantastic ballad. And then you have the song Light My Way, sung by Derek St. Holmes, not Meatloaf. Him and Meatloaf would trade off on vocals. Probably my least favorite song on the album, but still really good. Kind of a fast-paced, fun song. You got a great riff and great soloing. Just the guitar tone and sound is just cranked up throughout this album. The next song is another, probably one of my top 3 songs on the album. A song called Hammer Down, with just a great, heavy, fat riff from Ted. A great chorus, Hammer Down, from Meatloaf singing this one. A fantastic vocal performance again. Hammer Down, probably along with Riding on the Wall, contenders for favorite songs on the album. And then to finish it off, you have the song I Love You So I Told You a Lie. Kind of some clever wordplay there, kind of a fun song. Meatloaf singing this one again. Probably not my favorite, but still a really good song. Just catchy, just fun, just up-tempo. Great vocal delivery from Meatloaf on this. And that's it. 7 tracks, or 8 tracks, I should say. Just front to back, a very, very good album. Probably, in my opinion, their strongest album. You got this one. You got the self-titled 75. This one 76. Cat Scratch Fever 77. Weekend Warriors 78. State of Shock 79. Scream Dream 80. Haven't really listened to some of his 80s albums, but for my money, this one and Weekend Warriors are probably my favorite. Yes, better than that debut. Weekend Warriors has some fantastic songs on it. Venom Soup and Smokescreen are just heavy metal, proto heavy metal, crazily heavy songs on that album. Just fantastic. But front to back, this is probably their most solid album. The only songs that aren't like 5 out of 5 to me are probably Light My Way and I Love You So I Told You a Lie. But even those songs being probably the least, my least favorite on the album, are still really good. And when you have 6 tracks that are fantastic and 2 that are really good, but not quite as good, you got a 4 out of 5 star album in my opinion. And Ted Nugent's guitar playing is all over this album. And another thing that I've kind of touched on briefly earlier, the reason I like this album so much is because Ted doesn't sing a lot on it. I don't care for his vocal style or his voice. Not a great singer. He's a fantastic guitar player, though. I mean, one of the greats. I mean, he was Eddie Van Halen before Eddie Van Halen was a thing. He was coming up with all these fantastic licks, riffs, and solos, and even almost like thrashy, kind of chuggy riffs in this album especially, that really, I think is really influential to later albums in the late 70s and early 80s. He almost had like I kind of see his influence in the thrash metal movement that came later in the 80s. I see his influence in that, and just a lot of albums that came after, a lot of bands and albums that came after the Ted Nugent solo album. Just, I see where they got a lot from that band. It's very evident, especially on this album. But yeah, this album to me is great because he doesn't sing a lot on it. He doesn't have a great voice. Meatloaf has a fantastic voice. Derek St. Holmes has a fantastic voice. Those guys are front and center on this album. To me, that's why it's so good. Paired together with Ted's fantastic guitar playing, and you have magic. And that's this album to me. Meatloaf is fantastic on this album. He has a great voice. To me, Ted never sounded better than he did on this album. Close second, the debut and Weekend Warriors, but I prefer this album way much more than Cat Scratch Fever, and even the first album. The first album has a couple of good songs, but the rest of the songs are kind of not so great to me. This is just the peak right here. Free for All from Ted Nugent. I'm gonna give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'll give it a 93 out of 100. I personally love it. It doesn't get talked about a lot. You hear a lot about the first album and the third album. This one's kind of sandwiched in between them and kind of forgotten about. But for my money, this is their best album. Free for All, 93 out of 100. Ted Nugent. If you haven't heard it, I recommend giving it a listen. I really have been getting into it. I've probably listened to it 10 times in the last week or two. It's that good. To me, it's just fantastic. Just if you love great guitar tone, loud guitar riffs and solos, this is the album for you, my friend. And that'll be it for this album review. Go and listen to it. Ted Nugent, Free for All. Thank you for watching.